Guess who's back? Welcome back to my channel. If you don't know me, my name is Latrell R. Morris. I am a horror, sci-fi, and paranormal romance author and writer. For those who have been here before, thank you for coming back. Today I am going to do a special on my latest or newest book that will be released on March 1st. That is Karma and Other Shit right there. That's cover one. There's two covers. So these are the official covers. You have the black one and then you have the white one. This can be found on Amazon and this can be found on Barnes and Noble. Both can be found on my website, which I prefer you go to. So pick them up. So I wanted to do a special, kind of like how I did for Nova, the Executioner of Vanity, basically talking about the book, the inspiration behind the book, and that is what this is today. Karma and Other Shit is a horror story anthology. It features 9 short stories, all ranging from body horror to psychological horror, trauma, as well as there's a ghost story in there. Karma and Other Shit is actually divided into 2 parts. So you have the karma part, that's the first part, and it features a couple of short stories, and then you have the other shit, which is still horror, but they're not focused exactly on karma. I wanted to do this anthology because I felt like I had pushed horror to the side after the release of Nova the Executioner of Justice, and I was focusing more on like the sci-fi and paranormal romance, and I was like, I got to get back into my baby, my original genre, the thing I love. I grew up on horror. I love paranormal horror. I love psychological horror. Gore horror is okay if it's done right. Like, I will not, I can't watch the Saw movies. 3 was the last one I saw, and I was like, yeah, I'm out of here. But, yeah, I wanted to get back into horror because I felt like I was just kind of neglecting it. And I started last summer, I started like thinking of some stories that I could write, and that's how all of these stories came to be. I am going to break down each story and kind of give a little bit of spoilers, but not too much. Each story, well, the majority of the stories has a personal or sorry if y'all hear that. Each story has a personal or like worldly inspiration behind it, and once I go through them, I'll let you know why I wrote those stories. So, story number 1 is called Neighborly Love, and this story was inspired by recent events that have been happening. And when I say recent events, I mean the ongoing legislation of hate that has been running rampant the past couple of years and has really like blown been blown out of proportion. And so I wrote the story about a neighbor, an old neighbor. He's an old white man whose name is Gunther, and as he gets older, more and more people are moving into his neighborhood, and the people who are moving into his neighborhood are people that look like me, as well as people who sexual orientation he does not agree with. And so I made him out to be the villain, of course, because people are people. And his hate gets him in trouble. The next story is You're So Vain. Oh, You're So Vain. I gotta get used to this. But You're So Vain is about a woman. Her name is Sadie, and she is one of the most beautiful women, or she thinks she's the most beautiful woman in the world. Whatever. She is very spoiled, and she's not a kind person. She doesn't like people who basically, as she describes it, are unkempt, meaning they don't take care of themselves. They're over a certain size. Um, People who basically don't really look like her or live her lifestyle. So she meets this old woman and it's downhill from there. This story is actually one of the shortest stories, and I tried to tell it in like a fairy tale way. I don't know if I really accomplished that, but hey, I like it. The next story is Saint Noor, and Saint Noor is the ghost story. Um, it is about a small town that has rapidly experienced gentrification, and during that, the mayor, which is the main character, he wants to have this big investment firm or this big builder come in and basically gentrify the neighborhood. So they're at it starts off at a meeting for the townspeople, and they're explaining why they don't want this to happen. Um, the thing is, during this, they're trying to find space. The mayor, the council, is trying to find space to put buildings and other places, and their idea is the cemetery. And they already have made up in their mind that it's gonna go. Once they start disturbing the graves, that's when things start to happen. And if I say it's a ghost story, then you could already know what's gonna happen. So the last karma story and the next story is called Fat Chance. And Fat Chance is about a woman named Rebecca Kramer, and she is this one kind of has like this is like psychological, and it has to do with basically family trauma, as far as the things that people or parents put their children through and that they pass down, and thus how Rebecca deals with other people around her. So her mother is all about looks. Her mother was a beauty queen. So she instilled in Rebecca that you have to look perfect, always work out, don't be fat, blah 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 blah. The idea of perfection and being skinny is constantly beat in her, to the point where now Rebecca acts out on other people who are basically fat or who she deems unattractive. And her whole thing is psychologically, she wants to please her mother. And so she starts to do things that are against her mother. However, it comes with consequences. And because Rebecca has been just a shitty person to people, she has to deal with that karma. And so now we move on to the second part of the book, which is the other shit, which consists of 5 other stories. The first story in the other shit is called Love and Marriage. It is basically a story about a newlywed couple. They're expecting a baby, and these things start to happen. There starts to be a slew of murders, and they all have the same MO, but the um the police can't figure out who's doing it. And so something happens where, I should say, the suspect actually starts to feel guilty about what they're doing, but they feel that they're doing it for a good reason. This story is my kind of like creature story, and It is a creature from one of my other books, which is Coryville, and I'll let you, once you read it, you can decide which creature it is if you've read my book Coryville, which is a paranormal romance. The next story is actually told in two parts from two different point of views, and it is called That One Dark Night. But this is Cammie's story. And Cammie is a teenage girl who lost her father a couple of years prior. It's just her and her mother. She lives in this quiet neighborhood that's consisted of families. She has these neighbors across the street named Mr. and Mrs. Augustine that look after her when her mother goes to work at night. Her mother is a overnight nurse. And so one night the lights just go out without any warning. And things start happening, like things start appearing from the dark. This is the second creature feature, I guess you can say. I didn't even think I would have that many creature stories in here. It just kind of came to me. And I actually wrote That One Dark Night, the first part, Cammie's story, first, and then, no, actually second. And I had the next part of it was actually, I wrote it first, but I didn't finish it first. I finished Cammie's story first, which is which kind of like inspired me to intertwine the stories. Now, if you've read my sci-fi novella series, the Friend Trilogy, you'll know what this next story is. It's actually already available on my website, and it's called A Friend for the Lonely. And A Friend for the Lonely is uh it is what inspired my novella series, but it is a story about a woman who she's having feelings of loneliness, and in her head, she's just going through so much, going through the motions to the point where she conjures up this friend. And the friend isn't really a friend that she wants. So this friend is trying to get into her house, and she's like, "Nope, I'm not having it. I don't know who you are." Finally, I'm not going to really spoil anything because it's already available on my website. That friend takes her away and takes her to a place where she'll meet other friends. The inspiration behind A Friend for the Lonely was because of the loneliness I felt and sometimes still feel. So I just wanted to do kind of like put a horror slash sci-fi twist on it, and that was the inspiration behind that story. The next story is That One Dark Night, Fatima. I'm sorry you probably can't see it because the light's so bright, but yeah, That One Dark Night, Fatima, and this, like I said, is the second part of the One Dark Night, Cammie. So Fatima is a dance instructor. During the one night, she is leading a class, and then the class leaves, and all of a sudden the lights go out. Now she has with her one of her students. His name is Brandon, and they just kind of go through the night that the lights went out. Like I said before, this is a creature story. Fatima and Brandon basically have to find the strength within themselves to fight or survive, and it intertwines with Cammie's story, as I said previously, but I'm not going to say how it intertwines. And the last story, story number 9, is Who Will Save You? And this is actually a shortest story, and there's a reason behind that. This story is going to be not exactly a prequel, but it is in the middle of a sci-fi slash suspense story or series that I'm currently working on. So it kind of catapults the what's kind of gonna happen. Basically, it is a woman, or maybe not really a woman, that comes down to collect her star seeds. And the star seeds look a certain way, they look like her, and everybody else has to stay. The inspiration behind this story is basically an ode to black women for so many reasons, which will be explained in my series once I'm done writing it. Now, trigger warnings about the book: there is racism, there is gore, there's also trauma, psychological trauma, family trauma. Um, what else? What else? I think that's pretty much. Oh, homophobia as well. So, once again, Karma and Other Shit will be available, released on March 1st. It is currently available on my website, so go in and get it, and you'll get some special gifts. This is what the backs look like. Can't really see the white one because of the light, but I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll talk to you later. Bye.